The first thing you want to do is open the door and pop the hood with the hood latch. And here I'm just showing with the hood open. Here is your oil filter housing and the dipstick, and this is the oil fill cap, and you can go ahead and remove that. It helps the oil to drain out of the bottom, so it doesn't have a vacuum and it can breathe as the oil drains. And I usually go ahead and remove the filter housing, which I'll show you here in a minute, and I use just a big adjustable wrench like this to get on the filter housing. But before you remove the filter housing, you need to remove this engine cover or bonnet or whatever you want to call it, and it just pops off. Just kind of grab it by the corners and slowly pull it. It just holds on with pressure, and on these there's little kind of pins that just pop right into place. So you want to pull that off, and that'll allow you access to get to the filter housing. And like I said, I use just a big adjustable wrench. You could use a big socket. I'm not sure what size it is, but you could easily figure that out, or just use a big adjustable wrench and be real careful because it's plastic and you'll chew it up if you don't have a tight fit on it. So get a good grip on that, loosen it with your wrench, and then you can just screw this off by hand. And this is why you need to remove the engine cover, because it's just too tight of a fit with that plastic engine cover in place. You need to pull this straight off, because as you see that long stem, the people at the oil change place broke this stem off of mine, and little pieces of plastic fell down in my engine. And I don't want to talk bad about oil change places, but this is why I'm posting the video and why I'm done with the oil change places, because they broke that stem and I had to buy a new housing and they wouldn't pay for it. So be careful with that long stem. You don't want to break it off. It's just held in with little brittle plastic pieces. And this is just showing the new filter. This is a K&N filter. Every filter I've bought, though, whatever brand I get, it always comes with a new O-ring. So I'm going to show how to install the O-ring. I just take a little pick or a real small flathead screwdriver or something and pull off the old O-ring and throw that away. So out with the old and in with the new, and again, look what happens with the stem. Be real careful. I kind of knocked it over a little bit. You just want to keep that straight and don't break those little plastic pins off on the bottom that hold it in. But there's a little groove at the base of the threads, and that O-ring sits in the groove, so you just kind of want to slide that down and get it into the groove. Make sure it's all straight and all uniformly tucked into its little home there, and that's all there is to that. And that's how the guy at the oil change place broke it. The filter just slides right off and slides right back on like this. It just pops into place, and you just need to gently just slide it down the shaft there, being careful not to disturb that little plunger on a stem, because that is a plug that stops the oil from draining in the bottom of the housing there. But you just pop that old filter off and slide a new filter right in, and it'll kind of pop into place and seat in there. And then you just carefully slide it back into the housing holder and just tighten it back up, being again careful that the stem is straight and the filter is straight, and don't cross thread your threads. Just drop it in and get it finger tight, and then you can put a wrench on it and tighten it with a wrench. And again, I wouldn't over tighten it, just get it to where it doesn't turn anymore, and then stop. Just tighten it down tight, and that's good enough. When you start your car, you can check it and make sure it's not leaking too, and it shouldn't be leaking. Then here I am jacking up the car. Nothing special, just right on the jack point. And I guess, yes, I should be using jack stands, and I would recommend, for safety reasons, you should probably put your car on jack stands. Um, but I don't stay under my car very long. I just jack it up and, so I can have access back there to reach the oil pan. And I get under there and it's one little twist of a screw and the plug falls out and I'm right out from underneath my car, so it shouldn't fall on me. And those jacks, if they lose pressure, they usually kind of go slow. And here I'm just showing that I use plastic to cover the floor so it doesn't drip, and you need of course some kind of pan or something to drain your oil in, and make sure you remove the plug and let it breathe also, because it will fill up and overflow all over the floor, so it needs room to drain and breathe out the air as it fills up. So here we are underneath the car, and I'm trying to show this is the oil pan, and right in the middle of the screen there you can see that's the plastic plug, and it just twists in a few times and it'll snap into place. When you screw it back in, it'll just kind of snap and go right into place, and that's it. But there I'm pointing at where the plastic plug is, and you need a big screwdriver, or I just use a quarter because it works totally fine. And if you use a little small screwdriver, it'll tear that plug up and strip it out. So you need a big screwdriver, and I think a quarter works fine. It doesn't take very much force to twist that little plastic plug. See, a quarter fits in there really good, and it gives you plenty of surface area. So I just use that because I really don't even have a screwdriver that's like really, hefty, really large, like half-inch size. But after I take the plug out, I then lower my car down so it's flat, so all the oil drains out of the pan. I mean, if you jack it up on just one side, all the oil will go to one side in the pan and it won't drain properly. So I lower it down and drain it, then I jack it back up and put the plug back in. So I mean, here's the plug out of the car, and I'm getting ready to put it back in. And I don't show that, but I jack the car back up, and then you just put the plug right back in place and twist it with the quarter, and it'll snap back in place, and you're ready to fill. And here's the funnel I use, and you need a pretty thin funnel, because if you look at this fill cap, it's only half open on the left side. There's like a half moon, half circle shape on the left, and that's all the room you have. So you need something that's pretty small to fit in there. And now it's time to just fill it back up with oil. It takes about 6 quarts of oil. It's one full jug and then about a quart out of another one. And when you're done filling it, you can go ahead and replace this engine cover bonnet thing. And I'm showing there, see, there's just these little holes, and there's little pegs that it pops on. It sits in place and just pops right on. So you just take those holes that I was showing there and just kind of line them up and push it right back down onto them, and it just snaps in place. And that's all it does. I mean, it's secure there, and that's good to go. And go ahead and you can take the jack back out of it and lower the jack, remove the jack, and make sure that the oil cap here is back in place and it's tight, and your filter housing is on and screwed on tight. And here, after I got in the car and started the car and kind of let it run for a second and let the oil circulate around, I get back out and shut it off and check the oil level with the dipstick, and we are on full, so everything is looking good there. So now it's time to just replace the dipstick and reset the oil change warning light on the dashboard. And to do that, it's real easy. You just insert the key into the ignition, and then press and hold the little 00 button on the dash, and then turn the key just a half a twist without turning the car on, and it'll say reset oil light, and then you tap the button again and it will say service is reset.